Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 549 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. You have tuned in for a deep dive episode, and we think we have kind of a fun one for you tonight. But before we get into the topic at hand, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about ham preparation. In other words, if you're going to take your test, we're going to talk a little bit about what we as individuals here on the show have done as far as preparing for tests. And we'll give you a few resources you can use, in particular open source ones or web-based utilities that are easy to access for training yourself to pass the ham radio exams. And then we are going to go through 5 questions from each of the 3 question pools, and we're going to sort of bat around the answers and discuss and try and answer them even as far back as the tech exam to see if the 3 of us remember anything about how to get ourselves into ham radio. Like, could we pass if we took it again? Because I'm not convinced, at least for myself. So, all right, I don't know where we want to start here. I guess I will just say that when it came to my learning to take, well, back in the day when I took the exam, I had to do the novice first and then the tech and the tech plus. So I did all of those at the same time. But I went through a course with the local ham radio club. They actually went through the question pools, but they also went through all of the theory, all of the rules and regulations and everything. So I actually learned all the stuff that I needed to pass the exam. So I had actually all the knowledge necessary. But I will be brutally honest and say that when it came to me being tired of not being an extra, because I didn't take my extra exam until 20 years. Was it 20 years? 30 years? 93 to... It was like 25 years. I was a general. And then when I went to take the extra exam, I have an electrical engineering background. I have some formal education in that space. And of course, I've been a ham radio operator and tinkered with technology since I was like 7 years old. So I had a good foundation for answering the questions in the extra pool, but I sidestepped learning the specific information about the extra questions by just memorizing the pool. So I cheated, but here I am. So that's probably not the way you should go about doing it, but it's definitely a shortcut method, especially if you have like an eidetic or just a really good memory. So Cheryl's not an extra yet, but she's a general. So how did you come to at least pass your general? Like, well, you took it in 2 separate instances. You did the tech first and then the general. So
yeah,
how did
both
you
of
go
them at
about
Hamvention a year later. I used Dan Romanchik's no-nonsense guides, and which is... The answers are outlined, are boldface with how the questions appear on the test. So you just have to kind of wrap your brain around, if I get to a question that says blah, blah, this is the answer. So another case of memorizing the answer pool.
I think everybody does a little bit of that when they study for the exam. I mean, you may know 90% of the information, but you're not going to know it all. And sometimes you might hit a question that's worded in a way that makes you wonder, like, where this information came from and stuff like that. So you just kind of have to figure it out. And that's why you don't have to have like 100% to pass the tests. It's what, 80% for all of the exam levels?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's like 80%.
I think it's 80%. Yeah.
So you don't have to get them all right. You don't have to know all of the information. So, Bill, how did you go about training yourself for your exams when you were, back in the day? And I don't even know if I know the timeline of your going through from whatever your initial license class was to extra.
Let's see, in 94, the technician, I memorized the question pool. And took my 5-word a minute at the same time. So I spent more time learning the Morse code than actually memorizing the exam. And I would do because like they have to word the question exactly the same, and they have to put the answers in the same order. I basically had like a sort of a training mechanism for my brain that I would just go through, read the question, say the answer out loud, including the letter of the answer. So I'd be like, question, B, the answer, and then I would just move on to the next one and do exactly the same thing over and over again. And we didn't really have practice exams back then because, online was, whatever. It was still
didn't exist.
So, I didn't really focus too much on that. I passed the first time, and I passed my Morse code the first time. So I started as a Tech Plus because they did have a no-code tech at the time in 94. So I could have just got my tech, but I was going to focus on getting my general. So, and then in 95, I upgraded to general, doing the exact same thing, memorizing all of the question pool and answers, and and doing the 13-word a minute code. And then I tried for a few times to get the advanced code. And I was just focusing on the code because I figured the test would be easy enough, and I never took the actual written portion of the advanced test. So once I realized I wasn't going to get my code speed up enough in short order, I just ignored it, and I got busy contesting and stuff like that, and doing lots of stuff in VHF. So I never really worried about my extra until they got rid of the code requirement, and then I think it was 2008. I think I upgraded to extra and changed my call sign to my current call sign.
All right. That sounds reasonable. So we all did the little cheaty method, at least at some point. And I think almost everybody does. I don't think anybody sits down with the test having never seen the questions before. I mean, maybe that happens. It doesn't seem likely to me.
Yeah, I mean, doing the memorization thing, at least for me, worked out very well. I mean, when I sat down for my extra exam the first time, I took the entire exam in probably 5 minutes or less. So I had to just kind of like go back over my exam just to see if I kind of screwed something up. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I answered everything right. So yeah, I just took it up there, and I scored 100% on my exam. So
yeah, I think I did the same on the early tests. I don't think I got 100% on the general, but I did go straight to Tech Plus the first time. I did pass the 5 words per minute. And when I took general, I also passed the 13. And of course, the gap after general to extra was so long, I never went to advanced, never even tried. It was just long after the code requirement disappeared that I went for the extra. And at this point, thanks to the fact that CW seems to be, experiencing a kind of resurgence, I could probably pass the extra code test now, but I definitely couldn't do it then. So I'm looking at the chat room here, and Darren VK60K says he got 95% on his test because he couldn't identify the modules of a super heterodyne radio. Yeah, well, at least you passed, right? So Bill says Bill N3AJ, not Bill, took the no-code test sight unseen in 1991. How do you take a test sight unseen? Don't you have to at least see the test to take it?
I think he means he never looked at the question pool.
Yeah. If you have a technical background of any kind, really, you probably can pass the tech test. So, yeah, he says he was EE in college, and I was as well. So, But I did go through the motions, at least for me. It was fun to sit through the class, actually. The club did a really good class about getting into the Tech and Tech Plus and passing those exams. So I did learn the stuff, the actual information for those early tests. And I did as well for the general. But as I said, for the extra, just kind of question pooled it. So we did, we'll pause for any more. Let's see, Joel says, I studied for both tech and general, did well, having difficulties for the extra. So does that mean having difficulties is present tense? So that sounds like you have not passed the extra yet. So what are you using for tools to try and learn or memorize the pool to pass the extra, Joel? I assume you're actively pursuing extra class. So luckily truncate silence is a thing. He says he's listening to the audiobooks. I wish Dan would do an audiobook version. Well,
we know some voice talents over here. I can probably hook them up.
I'm pretty sure that he does have on Amazon. He has Kindle versions.
Yeah, but that's the text.
Yeah, but he can have it read it. The Kindle will read them.
Yeah, the Kindle will read it to you.
Oh, that's true. You've got the text-to-speech, of course, for sure. Oh, he doesn't have one apparently for extra. He did have an audiobook for general. So, well, I mean, Cheryl used KB6N used study guides to pass her 2 exams as well. It's obviously a good resource. So who wants to go through what resources we have here? Bill has been actually playing briefly here before the show started with hamexam, which is one of the open source Linux-based applications for practicing your study. So what's it like?
What is it like? So this is, I installed it on Ubuntu because that's the only place I could install it for right now. So, I installed it with the Ham Radio Learning application or whatever, the meta package from Debian. And it's a command line tool. However, there does provide a menu launcher option, which launches the command line for you. So you don't have to run it from command line technically. If you do run it from command line, you do use the hamexam space, and then you'll either use T for tech, G for general, E for extra, or Q for random. I think what's Q for? I don't even know what Q is for. What is Q for?
Q's usually for quit.
Quit. Let's see. Quit. The Q prompts you for selecting which one you want. So that's what the UI button, when you double tap or single tap the icon for the application in your UI, it basically executes hamexam space Q on the command line, which will then say which pool would you like, and it has. Let's see, the current technician up to the one that goes through July 2022 to July 2026 has the general element 3 from July 2023 to July 2027. And here's where it's broken. It has the extra element 4 effective July 2020 until July 2024. So it has not been updated for the new question pool that the extra exam currently has. Maybe that's because it is it technically expired? Does it expire at the end of July, or does it expire on June 30th? I never
July 1st is from what I saw.
Okay, so so this is an expired pool. So if you're doing the extra, I would not even attempt to use this. But I was I was pretty interested in it because it does as you go through questions. In the questions that have figures, images and whatnot, it actually pops up the image into a separate window for the question you're on, which I think is pretty cool. So it'll definitely include the image, even though it's a command line application, it will include all of the figures and stuff like that. So when you're asked a question like this one is, which of the following displays multiple digital signal states simultaneously? Or something like that. And it brings up a figure for it. Even though this figure's not for this question, this is kind of interesting. I just realized, this question is not even for this figure. But anyway, it does have all of these in there, and you can flip. Okay, so it just basically launches the figures, and you can rotate through them. So I'm just kind of cycling through all the figures included in this test. So Yeah, that's kind of slick. So you have to pay attention to which particular question you're on and which figure you need for that question. But it does load them all up basically in like a picture viewer app. I don't even know what this actually is. I can probably tell if I figure it out with what is this? Oh, image viewer. So on Ubuntu, at least, it loads the image viewer app in the directory for the images for the application. So I mean, at least this is available. I was not able to find it for Fedora, and I think you tried installing it in Manjaro and didn't see it, at least not immediately through PAMac is what you call it, or PAMac.
Right. I tried using the standard, the default installer package manager, PAMac, and it did not find it. And I have the AUR enabled. So, maybe it's Debian only. I don't know. Maybe it's called something else. Maybe it's could be a different name or something like that. There was also in the Debian Pure Blend for ham radio, there was also the Canadian hamexam. So apparently we're North America centralized here as far as software. I am curious, though, about Darren, because Darren said that he took his exam, blah, 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 blah. But do they do in Australia what they do here, where you have the question pool available to you? Is it like that everywhere, or do some countries administer tests differently? Can anybody speak to any of that? And for Jill, who just popped in, we need to hear a sentence or two about how you got to whatever license level you're at. Did you study? Did you learn the actual, information? Or did you memorize the question pool? We all want to know. So I don't know. I mean, none of the software that I've seen, I'm sure the websites like hamstudy.org and what were the other ones we had here? hamexam.org and exam.tools. Those are all U.S. license centric. There are probably websites for, international licensees as well that do the same thing. I'm sure like the RSGB or whatever puts out something for the UK hams and whatnot. But being a U.S. podcast, we're going to be U.S. centric. But can anyone speak to licensing in other countries? Do you get the questions presented to you, or are some of them essentially closed book or anything like that? Because I'm not aware of
Darren said there's a question pool, test in 3 parts, regulations that is the same at all levels, practical radio use, and theory.
Okay, so that's very similar to the way it's done in the U.S.
And I just cruised around on Amazon. KV6 in-use books are available in book version for $22-ish on average. Kindle versions for about $10. They have a CW Geeks to Having Fun with Morse code. $3 on Kindle, $12 in paperback. And these books are all the current books that are $22 to $24. And Kindles are $10 right across the board, except for the CW ones. So,
all right, we're not really addressing CW specifically here. There are a million different ways to learn CW, but
I don't know that this book is actually to learn CW. I think it maybe talks about the pros and cons of CW. Maybe, I don't know. So.
A treatise on CW, but. Anyway, yeah, let's not. I mean, I think learning CW might be a whole other episode if we have not done that one yet, which we maybe haven't. But at least for me personally, there's a lot of renewed interest in CW, so that may be something we touch on here before too long. At least as far as getting to the point where you're like contest ready, which means you're not really a CW, but you know enough about it to make some quick contacts. So anyway, I think we've given several resources for learning how to pass your exam. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to take a few minutes to do something kind of fun. At least I think it'll be kind of fun. And Cheryl is going to bring up an app she downloaded for Android called Ham Radio Prep. I downloaded it myself. Obviously not open source. But we're just going to use it as a way to auto-generate questions out of the pools to answer. And actually, let's do it round robin style. And we'll see. We're going to go all the way back to tech, and then we're going to do general, and then we're going to do extra. And we'll do it round robin style, and we'll see if we can actually answer these questions correctly and embarrass ourselves live.
Do you want me to give the 4 choices?
Yes.
Or just
Okay? Yeah. Give us the 4 choices.
Okay. All right. So,
I'll start. You can do me first.
Okay. What frequency range is referred to as VHF? 300 megahertz to 3000 megahertz, 30 kilohertz to 300 kilohertz, 30 megahertz to 300 megahertz, or 300 kilohertz to 3000 kilohertz.
So VHF should start at 30 megahertz and go up. So I think that was option C.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay.
So smart.
I are so smart. SMRT. I mean SMART. Yep. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Okay. So then you can do you. You can read the question.
Okay.
And answer it.
Which of the following protocols enables an amateur station to transmit through a repeater without using a radio to initiate the transmission? D-Star, DMR, Echolink, or IRLP? I have no idea.
Well,
I'm going to say Echolink.
And?
I was correct.
There you go.
Look at that.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so for Bill, what causes tropospheric ducting? Sunspots and solar flares, updrafts from hurricanes and tornadoes, discharges of lightning during electrical storms, or temperature inversions in the atmosphere?
Well, the last one.
Okay, you're correct.
Well, of course.
Of course.
Our listeners are answering these questions too.
Yeah, probably.
I got it before they did, though.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So what's my next one?
What does a dummy load consist of? A 50 ohm reactance used to terminate a transmission line, a low voltage power supply in a DC relay, a high gain amplifier and a TR switch, or a non-inductive resistor mounted on a heatsink.
Oh, I feel like I might get this one wrong. I'm not looking at the chat, by the way, because I don't want to be.
You don't want to get wrapped up into that.
Yeah, read A and D again.
A is a 50 ohm reactance used to terminate a transmission line, and D is a non-inductive resistor mounted on a heatsink.
I'm gonna go with A.
You're incorrect.
It's D. I know.
Yeah.
It's D. Yeah.
All right. I knew it was one of those
already
two.
50 ohms, so you don't have to worry about presenting 50 ohms.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So
And we'll let Bill answer.
We'll
let Bill answer this one.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Must be a hard
Because
one.
no. It's just Russ had 5 questions. So
No. We're gonna do 6. I just changed it to 6, so we can.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. What is a beam antenna? An antenna built from aluminum I-beams. An antenna that, yeah.
I mean,
just read the answers. It could be, yeah. An antenna that concentrates signals in one direction.
Okay.
An omnidirectional antenna invented by Clarence Beam, or an antenna that reverses the phase of received signals.
Oh, B for sure. Yeah, that's one of those dumb answers. All the dumb answers in there.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be the one that I answered. So, why do most solid-state transmitters reduce output power as SWR increases beyond a certain level? And to lower the SWR in the transmission line, to protect the output amplifier transistors, because power supplies cannot supply enough current at high SWR, or to comply with FCC rules on spectra purity.
This was for Cheryl, so I'll let her answer it.
I'm going to pick output amplifier resistors, which is correct. So, because I got that from Bill. So,
Because Bill went B.
Yeah, Bill. Yes, yeah. So,
all right.
okay.
So let's switch to the
General test. Yeah.
And we'll do it. Let's do it in order this time. So we do 6. We'll each do 2. Me, Cheryl, and Bill. So,
Okay. Where should the radial wires of a ground-mounted vertical antenna system be placed? As high as possible above the ground, parallel to the antenna element, on the surface or buried a few inches below the ground, at the center of the antenna.
B, C.
Correct. So you're doing another one?
No, you're doing next one.
Great.
So I guess we can do it that way if you want to.
2 and 2. Okay.
2 and 2, sure.
Okay. How is a product detector used?
Oh, this is one of those ones I'm definitely going to get wrong. So
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to get it. So, used in a single sideband receiver to extract the modulated signal. Used in a transmitter to perform frequency multiplication. Used in test gear to detect spurious mixing products. Used in an FM receiver to filter out unwanted sidebands.
Oh man, I'm gonna guess. This is a guess, by the way. I'm gonna guess D, and it's probably A.
Yeah, it's used in a single sideband receiver, to extract the modulated signal, which was A.
I have a problem with A and D. Maybe I'm just dyslexic. I don't know. All right, Cheryl, you got your 2.
Okay, so how long is a certificate of successful completion of examination, otherwise known as a CSCE, valid for exam element credit? 180 days, 365 days, for as long as your current license is valid, or 30 days? I believe it's for as long as your current license is valid. So we're going to see. No, 365 days. I was debating. I was like, is it a year or is it? Yeah. So
see, we suck.
Yeah,
sounds kind of official, though. It's kind of one of those things. That sounds like an official number. I could go with that.
Yeah. And what is one disadvantage of using a shortened mobile antenna as opposed to a full-size antenna? Harmonic radiation may increase. Q of the antenna may be very low. Short antennas are more likely to cause distortion of transmitted signals, and operating bandwidth may be limited.
Sure.
I know short antennas kind of suck, so
not necessarily. It depends on wavelength, but go ahead.
Right. I'm going to say harmonic radiation may increase. That's wrong. Operating bandwidth will be very limited.
All right. Yeah. So, Bill, you got 2. What are you going to do?
Okay.
Which of the following are objectives of the Volunteer Monitor Program? To encourage amateur radio operators to self-regulate and comply with the rules. To coordinate repeaters for efficient and orderly spectrum usage. To conduct efficient and orderly amateur licensing examinations. And the last one is to provide emergency and public safety communications.
I think that's A.
That is correct. Okay,
the middle 2 are like VEs.
Right, yeah.
And the last one was just like, superheroes.
Right, well, yeah. So the last question is, what term specifies a filter's maximum ability to reject signals outside its passband? Ultimate rejection, notch depth, insertion loss, or roll-off?
I would have just guessed D. I have no idea.
Ultimate rejection.
Ultimate rejection. That sounds faker than anything, but
yeah.
I wasn't very sure on, obviously.
Right.
Okay, so obviously we've all failed the general exam, so let's go on
50%.
Yeah. Okay, so Russ, what is a volunteer examiner coordinator?
Oh, geez, that's an extra cool question.
Yeah, this
okay, at least I'm going to get one right, so go ahead.
This is an amateur question, so, all right, extra question, sorry. Person who's volunteered to administer amateur radio license examinations. Person who's entered into an agreement with the FCC to be a VE session manager. An organization that's entered into an agreement with the FCC to coordinate, prepare, and administer amateur operator license examinations. An organization paid by the volunteer examiner team to publicize and schedule examinations.
That's going to be C, the long answer.
Correct.
All right. So hopefully this next one is a little less stupid.
Yeah. How is the far field elevation pattern of a vertically polarized antenna affected by being mounted over seawater versus soil? Radiation at low angles increase. Radiation at low angles decrease. Additional lobes appear at higher elevation angles. Separate elevation lobes will combine into a single lobe.
Oh, I think it's low elevation. I think it's low elevation will increase. B, I think.
Okay, radiation at low angles decreases.
I think it was increase, whichever one that is.
Increases A.
Okay.
So, that is correct.
All right, cool. Yay!
You passed your extra. Congrats.
Woo! All right, let's see if Cheryl passes her extra. If she does, you have to go
probably not. At what time of day is equatorial, propagation most likely to occur? Morning, afternoon, or evening, noon, or late at night? I'm going to say morning. Probably wrong. No, afternoon or early evening.
All right, so what's next?
How do ALE stations establish contact? ALE radios activate when they hear their signal echoed by backscatter. ALE radios send a constant tone code to establish a frequency for future use. ALE radios monitor an internet site for the frequency they're being paged on. ALE constantly scans a list of frequencies activating the radio when the designated call sign is received. Going to say A. Wrong. It was D. That was my next choice. So
I was about to say, I was like, what the hell's an ALE radio?
Yeah.
I'm totally going to fail this exam. Oh my God.
No, I did though. So, Bill's first question is, what characteristic of a PIN diode makes it useful as an RF switch? Low junction capacitance, extremely high reverse breakdown voltage, ability to dissipate large amounts of power, or reverse bias controls its forward voltage drop.
I have no idea. I'm going to say D.
It's A.
Wrong. It's low junction capacitance.
I have no idea. I buy radios. I don't build them. Jeez.
All right, one more.
Okay, which frequency band has the smallest first Fresnel zone? 5.8 gigahertz, 3.4 gigahertz, 900 megahertz, or 2.4 gigahertz?
I have no idea. 3.4 gigahertz.
Russ, do you have an answer?
I know it was about Fresnel zones. What was the question again?
What frequency band has the smallest first Fresnel zone?
It's Fresnel. There's no, you don't pronounce it.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. And it was 3.4 gig.
5.8 gig, 2.4 gig, or 900 megahertz.
The smallest Fresnel.
Bill says 3.4.
Well, I think it's either going to be the highest frequency or the lowest frequency. So I don't think 3.4 is right. So
or like 900 megahertz.
Yeah, I mean, Fresnel zone. What was the question one more time? Sorry.
What frequency band has the smallest first Fresnel zone?
The smallest first Fresnel zone.
5.8 gigahertz.
Fresnel zones are like where radio signals will basically go around corners. So I'm going to say, 900 megahertz.
So which one do we want to take, the 3.4 or the 900? Because Bill answered with 3.4.
Well, we got to take Bill's answer.
So is he going to fail his extra?
Yeah, obviously.
It's 5.8.
Okay, so it's the other way. Yeah,
it's the other way. Yeah, no.
Okay, yeah. So again, none of us are hams now. So
yeah. I'll just turn in my radio license and all my radios. Yeah, I have no idea. I apparently have to study this stuff. Like that wasn't even on my question test at all. I don't even remember Fresnel being even mentioned. Like, because like there's no there's no sense to have VHF, UHF, VHF, super HF, whatever, the super high frequency stuff in the extra exam from 15 years ago.
Jill just said she volunteers to distribute all of Bill's radios.
Yeah. Only to a good cause.
Right, yeah.
Silly high frequencies. Yes, Bill, you got it right. Silly.
Yeah, 5 gigahertz. Yeah, that's definitely. You usually only think about that for like Wi-Fi and stuff, not radio. But people do, amateur radio way up there. So, all right. Well, that I think is going to take us down past the content of the show anyway. Feel free to continue in the chat. We'll pick up anything of interest in there. We hope that if you're not licensed yet and you're listening to us, that you will go ahead and get licensed. The lower license exams are definitely easier than the extra. You definitely got a taste of what's involved in knowing the answers to the extra question pool. And it can be, at least from the one question I got, either really easy or the couple questions Bill got really, really hard. And you do have to know a lot of electronics and electrical theory. Anyway, with that, we hope you study it. We hope you become a ham if you're not one already. And if you have a chance to upgrade, you should probably go ahead and do that. Check out all the resources we mentioned. And we'll hopefully catch you on the airwaves, whether you actually know about Fresnel zones or not. And in the meantime, let's get down to some announcements and feedbacks. I actually put this one in here, but I'm going to skip it because I don't have anything more to say about it right now. And we'll go to this Mastodon message I got from Winston a couple of weeks ago. I didn't see it until today, so I guess we'll address it now. This is from KD2WLL. He says, enjoyed the deep dive up until about 45 minutes or so in when your audio started breaking up, started to recover, and then breaking up again. You mentioned something about Open Source Radio Club. Sounds good. I haven't heard you talk about it before, so maybe elaborate in a later episode. Hopefully you listened to either the last episode, I think it was the last episode, where I talked about the nets and the club and what we're trying to do with it and the website we're going to set up, and possibly link it to groups.io for membership applications, stuff like that. So everything should have been in 548 or 547, one of the two. So check that out. I am working on the website, so I hope to have all that information up within the next week or two. And I also fixed, as well as I could, and re-released the Fedora Deep Dive episode. The audio is much better now, so if you didn't get through it, please check it out again. It should be much better. And we have sort of narrowed down what the issue is, and future recordings should not have that problem. My internet provider notwithstanding.
There's still a few caveats in that statement, you know.
But yeah, so far this episode's gone pretty well. Anyway, thanks, Winston, for the Mastodon message. Go ahead and check out those episodes, and there will be, of course, more information about the Open Source Amateur Radio Club as time goes on. And with that, we're down to Cheryl's other portion of the show here, our new subscriber supporters and live participants. So we'll let her hit those.
Okay, so this time for subscribers and Patreons, we didn't have any new ones. For our free Patreons, we had Cassie and GreyMan. On Facebook, there wasn't anybody. Twitter or X, there wasn't anybody. Nobody on YouTube. On Discord, there was Nash and Pancakes, two different people. Instagram, we had sandrodet, or Rodet, Carterleo1435, buscape.2.sp, 101_canaries, GW or GJW2876, and hamateuradiodude. Sorry, I'm reading this from a sideways glance. Mastodon, we had @CW. There were no merchandise sales. Nobody joined us on the mailing list. And for our live chat, we had Bill, N3AJ, Darren, VK6EK, Mike, K6GTE, James, KIF0EB.
No.
Or no. Well, again, I'm reading this from the side. K1S0EB.
No.
I'm guessing.
No.
Okay, then what is that? Because that looks like an I.
Kilo India 5, KI5, OEB.
Okay. Did I not say 5?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. That's both times. Sorry. Yeah. Jill, K1TTZ, and Joel, KC0YEW.
All right. So anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode. I had fun doing it anyway, and I'm not even drunk yet. So anyway, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed. Hope you'll get licensed or upgraded as your situation allows. If you haven't already, we hope to hear you on the airwaves. And we also hope you have a great week and will join us for our Short Topics episode next time around. And in the meantime, have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, or whatever it is while you're listening to this. And we'll talk to you all soon. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode, number 549 of Linux in the Ham Shack. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.